Tonight, you will lie down on a rectangle of foam that was engineered by strangers. You will pull a blanket over your body. You will set an alarm, close your eyes, and expect 8 uninterrupted hours of unconsciousness inside a dark, silent, climate-controlled box. And if you do not get those 8 hours, you will wake up believing something has gone wrong with you. But the real answer is far stranger. Your ancestors had no mattress, no pillow, no blackout curtains, no white noise machine, no melatonin gummy, no sleep tracker whispering a score into your phone at sunrise. They slept on dirt, they slept on grass, they slept on stone, on hide, on the packed floor of a cave, with insects moving nearby and predators somewhere in the dark. And by almost every measure researchers can find, they slept better than you do. Not longer. Better. Hold that distinction, because everything you think you know about sleep is built on top of it. Start with the number 8 hours. You have heard it your entire life. It sounds ancient, like something handed down. It is not. It is a modern average repeated so often that it hardened into a law of nature, and you've been failing to meet an imaginary standard for most of your adult life. So what did human sleep actually look like before beds, before clocks, before electricity? For most of history, nobody could answer that. People who slept the old way left no records. Then, in 2015, a sleep researcher named Jerome Siegel at the University of California, Los Angeles, did something obvious that nobody had bothered to do. He went and measured it. Siegel and his colleague Gandhi Yetish traveled to 3 of the last hunter-gatherer and horticultural societies on Earth: the Hadza in Tanzania, the San in Namibia, the Semane in Bolivia. 3 groups, 3 continents, no electric light, no clocks, no scheduled bedtimes. The researchers strapped small motion and light sensors to their wrists and recorded for over 1,000 nights exactly when these people fell asleep and exactly when they woke. The result did not match the story you were told. They slept between 5.5 and 7 hours a night, less than the American average, less than you slept last night, probably. They did not go to sleep at sunset. They stayed awake for hours after dark, talking, tending fire, and then they slept in a single stretch and woke before the sun. And here is the part that stopped the researchers cold. In the languages of these groups, there is no common word for insomnia. When the question was translated for them, the concept had to be explained. Lying awake night after night, tormented by the inability to sleep. It was not a condition they recognized. Fewer than 2% reported anything like it. In the modern world, the number is closer to 1 in 3. Sleep less. Suffer less. How? Look at what wakes them and what puts them down. Siegel found that these people did not fall asleep when the light disappeared. They fell asleep as the temperature dropped, and they did not wake when the sun rose. They woke, almost every single one of them, at the coldest hour of the night, in the last dark stretch before dawn. Temperature, not light. Your body has a core temperature that rises and falls across the day like a slow tide. It peaks in the early evening. It bottoms out in the small hours of the morning. Sleep does not begin because the world goes dark. Sleep begins because your body begins to cool, and that falling curve is the actual signal, the switch your ancestors were built around across 2 million years of nights on open ground. Now think about where you sleep. A sealed room, constant temperature, all night, every night, all year. Warm in winter, cool in summer, never moving. You have removed the signal and then wondered why the switch stopped working. But there is something even stranger buried in the historical record, and it comes from an unlikely place. Not a laboratory, an archive. In the 1990s, a historian at Virginia Tech named Roger E. Kirch was researching the history of the night. He was reading court depositions, diaries, medical books, prayer manuals, letters, plays, and he kept tripping over the same phrase, dropped casually, never explained. First sleep, and then hours later, second sleep. He found it hundreds of times, in English, in French, in Italian, in African and South Asian sources. Nobody ever defined it the way you would never stop to define breakfast because everyone already knew. Human beings used to sleep in 2 shifts. You went to bed a few hours after dark, you slept for roughly 4 hours, and then you woke in the deep middle of the night and you were awake for an hour, sometimes 2, not anxious, not panicking, awake on purpose in the dark. What did they do with that hour? The documents are surprisingly specific. They prayed, they stared at the fire, they thought about their dreams, which were still fresh, still sitting on top of the mind. They talked quietly to whoever was lying beside them. Some got up and checked the animals, and then they lay back down and slept a second time until morning. An entire room in the house of the night that you have never been inside. Now, a historian finding a phrase in a book is one thing. Proving that the human body still contains that architecture is another. Which brings us to the strangest experiment in the history of sleep research. In the early 1990s, a psychiatrist at the National Institute of Mental Health named Thomas Vare took a group of volunteers and did something almost cruel in its simplicity. He put them in darkness, 14 hours of darkness every night for a month, roughly what a human being would have experienced in midwinter before artificial light. For the first few weeks, they slept enormously, as though repaying a debt, and then something ancient surfaced. Their sleep broke in half. They slept for about 4 hours. They woke. They lay quietly awake for 1 to 3 hours. Then they slept another 4 hours until the darkness lifted. Nobody instructed them to do this. Nobody had told them about E. Kirch's research, which had not even been published yet. Their bodies simply remembered. And during that waking gap, Vare measured something remarkable in their blood, a hormone called prolactin, which is the same hormone that pours through an animal at rest, the one associated with the drowsy, still contentment of a nursing mother or bird sitting motionless on a nest. The volunteers described the state as neither sleep nor ordinary waking. They described it as meditation. Ask yourself what that means. It means the 2 hours you spend staring at your ceiling at 3 in the morning, heart hammering, doing arithmetic about how many hours are left before the alarm, might not be a malfunction. It might be a room in the house that you have been taught to treat as a hallway of horror. The waking is ancestral. The panic is new, but sleeping on the ground is still sleeping on the ground. Cold, hard, dangerous. How is that better than a mattress? Here you have to stop thinking about sleep as a thing that happens to a body and start thinking about it as a thing that happens to a group. The anthropologist Carol Worthman at Emory University spent years comparing sleep across cultures and reached a conclusion that sounds obvious once you hear it and is nearly invisible before you do. In almost every human society that has ever existed, sleep was not solitary and it was not silent. People slept in clusters, bodies against bodies, children among adults, fires burning low, someone always shifting, someone coughing, someone murmuring, dogs, insects, wind, the ordinary noise of a living world. Sleep was social, it was noisy, it was warm because other people were warm. And you've spent your whole life being told the exact opposite is required. Silence, isolation, cold, a dark chamber, alone. Then, in 2017, an anthropologist named David Sampson tested the deepest implication of Worthman's insight. Working with Hadza hunter-gatherers, he watched not one sleeper, but the whole camp at once, tracking 22 adults across 20 days. He was looking for a single moment when every person was asleep at the same time. Across more than 200 hours of observation, he found that moment for only 18 minutes total. Someone was always awake. Not because anyone assigned a shift, because human sleep is staggered by age. The young stay up late, the old wake early. Layer a group of mixed ages together and you produce, without planning it, a continuous watch across the entire night. Researchers call this the sentinel hypothesis. Your grandmother waking at 4 in the morning is not a defect of aging. It is is a 2 million-year-old security system still running in a house that no longer needs guarding. So consider what your ancestor actually had: a body that fell asleep when the world cooled exactly as it was built to, a middle-of-the-night waking that felt like calm because it was expected, and all around them in the dark, other people, which meant the part of the brain that watches for danger, could finally, briefly put down its weapon. That is the thing you cannot buy. That is what has been quietly taken, and now the last turn, the one that will sting a little. In 2017, a sleep researcher named Kelly Barron and her colleagues began noticing patients arriving at the clinic with a new problem. They were not tired. Their sleep, when measured, was fine, but they had begun tracking it, scoring it, optimizing it, and now they lay awake at night worrying about their numbers, chasing a perfect night that the device promised them and never delivered. Barron gave it a name: orthosomnia, an unhealthy obsession with achieving healthy sleep. You do not need to be told what that sounds like. You have felt the tightening in your chest when you look at the clock and calculate 6 hours left, 5 hours left, 4. Every calculation making the number smaller. Your ancestor woke in the dark, listened to the fire, and felt nothing at all about it. You wake in the dark and immediately begin failing a test. So what changed? Not your body. Your body still cools at midnight, still surfaces at 3, still tunes itself to the breathing of other people in the room. 2 million years of engineering is not undone in a century. What changed is that you took a biological rhythm, wrapped it in a number, attached the number to your worth, and then spent every night grading yourself against a standard no human being has ever consistently met. They had no beds, no mattresses, no pillows, no control over temperature or noise or safety, and they slept without fear because they had never been told there was a way to fail at it. Tonight, you will lie down on a rectangle of foam that was engineered by strangers, in a room that never changes temperature, in a silence no ancestor of yours ever heard, entirely alone. And if you wake at 3 in the morning, do not reach for your phone and do not begin counting. You are not broken. You are simply, briefly ancient.